Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls from around the network automation world, it's another episode of Network Automagic, and we decided to bring you the first of a new format. It's not actually a new format. We're copying it from other shows, but they had fewer guests. We have all the guests tonight. Everyone I know, and then some, have shown up, and they're here to talk to you about bum, 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 bum. We're going to do like a Nodding Heads AI panel where we all pretend to have differing opinions, but then we all boils down to a head nodding contest of, yes, it is difficult predicting the future. And yes, there are challenges. However, there are also opportunities. Get that bag, homeboy. The end. That's how it's going to, you could just skip this whole episode actually, because that's probably what it's going to boil down to. But I hope my guests prove me wrong. So I'm not going to introduce all of them, but you need to know that there is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 guests in this room right now, which is insane. And this is going to start, getting to the point where you won't know who's saying what. Just treat them all as the same person. That's what I do. So descriptions and who does what, and there will be a transcript. If HR is listening from any of their employers, there's a transcript and you'll know who said what. So you will be able to hunt these guys down. Don't worry, I will be the first to rat. Now, Urs, you made some questions and you had like an outline for this episode idea. Do you want to kick this off, or do you want me to kick it off?
I made some outline, but I already forgot it again.
That's perfect. So, gentlemen, starting from the top left corner, or anyone who wants to jump on this grenade, AI is a big thing. It's actually getting kind of good now in 2026, but it's also kind of bad now. Nodding head. AI has not changed what good work is. It has changed what fake it conveniently and, pretend you know what you're doing looks like. So question 1, has anyone any day-to-day changes or experiences in the past year that has changed as network automators? Anyone want to jump on that?
That was my question.
Yeah, take it. John, take it.
It wasn't Urs's question, it was mine. So I asked this question to my group of esteemed colleagues because I think that there is an awful lot of there's a lot of weak source complaining going on at the moment in the community, where a lot of people say that automation is definitely either fixing everything or breaking everything, and I think that the truth lies entirely in the middle. So to avoid this concept of being a bunch of nodding heads that agree with each other, I asked this question because for me, actually, tons of stuff has changed. Absolutely tons. Because in general, I think that people in the network automation space has been said for years. Network automators tend to be network engineers who are cosplaying a software engineer, or the other way around, you're a software engineer that pretends to know how to do networking stuff. And the truth is that you can't be good at both. It's not possible. We talk about T-shaped engineers and W-shaped engineers and stuff. It's not actually a thing. Really, you can either be one or the other, and you're always going to be crap at the other thing. And AI is leveling that playing field a little bit. And enough in my case that if I have a problem that I would like to solve and automation can do it for me, i.e. the XKCD chart that says you can save yourself this much time, then you're allowed to invest this much time before it's a loss of investment. Back in the old days, I'd look at that chart and I'd go, I can't automate anything because it takes me so damn long to do it that I'm not getting to get a return on investment. AI for me has changed that calculation. So now I can take on things that normally I would reject because it would take me too long to do it, that do actually then make me more efficient. So I take on a task like I need to scrape a load of data out of Netbox and throw it into an inventory for something. I need to generate some IRBs to throw onto 48 leaves. Normally, if I try and write the automation that does that properly, because I don't have InfraHub, I have a hard time. But with, you grab Claude, you sit him down in front of the system and say, come on, mate, here's what I want. And I know the patterns. I know what I'm trying to achieve. But honestly, the time it would take on a normal day to kind of do that thing would be a waste of it. So AI for me has made a number of small little tooling improvements that really do make me more efficient in the rest of my day.
So would it be fair to say that the cognitive bottleneck has been inverted? We're going from generation to verification? Like, do we have to verify more? Anyone want to jump on this?
Well,
Yeah, I'll,
sure, go ahead. I was just gonna say, are you to John? Yes, are you saying it's an enabler because you have the knowledge and a certain skill set, so it enables you to do things quicker, and that's specifically what I feel, right? I'm doing something over here, and I know most of it. I've written or designed part of that code, and then somebody else contributed, and I don't know exactly what he did, right? So this AI can process it quickly. I know the overall, and it gets the job done way quicker instead of spending 3 days on figuring out what the hell was this tiny little thing that I needed to fix.
Definitely. Because I know, I did computer science at university. I didn't get the degree, but I did the work. I did spend a lot of time over the last 15 years or so becoming very enthusiastic about Python and trying to get better at things like Go and turning it into a real thing. But the reality is, I understand the patterns. I understand what I'm trying to achieve, but it's not at the front of my brain. At the front of my brain is the 7 states of BGP, and however many LSAs there are. My brain is still full of the networking junk. And to be honest, as a manager, personality disputes and how to sort of make sure that we get X done in Y time. So I don't have the ability to shove all of the best patterns you might need, or the best, the exact configuration commands I might want to be able to deliver a thing right where I need it. And it's that tip of your tongue. I know what I want. Oh God, what is it? Do I need that there? Or it does that for me. And it does mean that I need to spend a ton of time validating, absolute metric ton of time validating. And in some senses, you could say, well, it's not really worth it because, you've saved a bunch of time at the beginning producing, but you've got to spend just as much time at the end proving everything was right. But over time, the more I talk to the stupid word salad shaker, it starts to understand what I want from it, the Claude empty, the memory, and all those nonsense things. And it makes less mistakes. And a lot of that is because I've learned how to use it, and the machine has got better, let's be honest. So it does make a difference now that I can talk to these things and I can get value out of them. But absolutely, I respect the opinion from a lot of people out there that says, it's too much like hard work, or it just takes too long. So I know I've got value, but I know that other people won't. That's cool.
but I think I would push back on your first point that you cannot be good in both disciplines. Because if you want to verify something, in my opinion, you have to be better than when you just create it. Writing crappy code is easy, but verify, validate crappy code, in my opinion, needs more skills than writing the code if you want to do it right.
I remind you of my framing of this argument that we are all cosplaying software engineers. So writing crappy code is pretty much our day to day, and validating crappy code when you've got a crappy a crappy awareness of the system is easy. You just turn up, right? It's the top of the Dunning-Kruger curve, and I'm sorry, that's where we are. So I kind of I have a problem. I have to shut up because I know monopolizing this already, but I have a real problem with this rose tinted view that we keep putting on life before AI turned up. I am not a booster. I am not a booster. But I'll tell you this, I respect what the technology can do. And I haven't made it my personality. I understand that some people don't like it. And to be honest, I don't like a lot of it too. But when you get down to it, we are, to say that you can be good at both. Sure, there are unicorns out there. Most of us, though, most of the people whose ear sockets this is flying into right now, we're all part-timers.
One thing to keep in mind
Definitely
too, my use case for AI is all the boring stuff. Like all the Git flows I have to follow, adding this and that. This is fork and pull. This is traditional Git flow. Like Git is like a lot of time and a lot of effort. So that's one thing that AI is incredible at is going through and okay, you built all this stuff or you're doing these things and you have this like really long disjointed get process. Like, hey, AI can take that off your plate. And that is so like it adds up. So if you're not committing code a lot and you just have a few things, or maybe you open a PR every once in a while, like fine. But like I happen to do this stuff all the freaking time and it adds up. And this is where AI saves me a ton of time. And I know it's not this amazing magical project that's changing the world, but for me, I got kids at home. I got stuff to do and I have all this busy work. Like those busy work things, knocking, like I could say that AI's probably knocked off like maybe almost 50% of my busy work at this point, and that's time I have back to put into other stuff, which is awesome.
I
Which
agree
is
with both of you. I had the exact same experience where, I'm not a software developer. I'd like to think that at some point in the distant past, I could have been one, but I don't have the drive today to try and spend all my free time, you know, becoming one, and that's okay. I don't think that's a problem at all. Yes, Urs is correct. If in a perfect world, we should always be striving to make things better and to make it more perfect. But that's just, not our day-to-day reality. And that doesn't make sense either. I mean, we don't want to spend all our time working, as William has said. But I'm going to quote William from a couple of weeks ago in a conversation he and I had, where it's a force multiplier essentially. You can easily like I can sit there. Last Friday is a great example. I sat there and was planning out a brand new script for this week. I screwed up and gave the LLM a little bit of edit mode, and it started building things for me. 2 hours later, it was done. It's a simple script. I know all the steps. I can do it in the UI. I know exactly what needs to be pulled out of the AI. It will take me 5 to 10 days to build that, test it, and make sure it works. It built it for me in 2 hours. Well, sorry. It built it and we tested it in 2 hours and worked out the 4 or 5 bugs that we found. And it was very quick. And I looked at the code and I understood exactly what it was doing, and it was doing everything I was doing. Even if it went out and it copied and pasted from Stack Overflow, that's exactly what I'm going to do. But, today I now at least have a tool where I can go, hey, this code I copied 10 years ago, is there a better way to do it today? I mean, that's a huge improvement. And I think in my experience, some of my code even from 5 years ago that I wrote by hand is a lot more stable today because of the fact that I've had AI to help me refine that and make it better. And I never would have gotten to that point without it.
I'm going to do a dissenting opinion, not totally dissenting, but I would have to say is, uh, if we're all, as John said, like kind of cosplaying, or part-timing jobs and stuff like that, I totally agree. And I view that AI gives me that force multiplier when I can just build something from scratch. And if that's good enough, and for 95% of people, that's going to be good enough. Like we're not expecting network engineers to become software engineers and write super stable, reliable, maintainable code. So whatever the AI spits out is probably what they were going to spit out anyways. It's going to be just the same. And then to that, it's going to be huge force multiplier. The problem I have is then when I go on to put on the software dev hat and I go, okay, cool, I have a pattern that I want to follow, and it's not some crazy, wildly, specific pattern, stuff like that. It's like, okay, I got instructors here. I'm trying to do, basic patterns and basic abstraction layers. And then AI will go, cool, let me shove 300 lines down here. And I'm like, okay, now I have to go review 300 lines and fix everything like that. And that part is where it slows me down considerably. So I really stick AI to prototyping and scripting and stuff like that to me. Whereas like, cool, I have no idea what I'm doing. I'm just letting it draw a canvas. Then I can kind of pick pieces of what I like about it. And that I think has actually sped me up in that regards a lot. I think in terms of, the bits and pieces of the actual code, it depends on what type of code you're doing. Obviously, if you want it to be performant, want it to be reliable and secure and stuff like that, the AI may not be the best choice for you. And fixing code and reading code is always a longer part than writing code at that point in time. So that becomes sometimes almost a drag. So I think it's just finding the balance of like what I like what I can immediately use AI to go with, and what I have to curate AI to give me a somewhat competent time with. And that part is I'm probably on, it's a balance board for me right now.
Nodding heads. The heads are nodding, which is excellent. So We have the standard layout for the, AI good, AI bad, hooga booga, fire good. Fire can also burn you. Arr. All right, so we've established that. That brings us, of course, to the underlying conversation, which is the fear and loathing. Like, have you experienced that the AI overlords? I have expectations changed in your roles since the dawn of the 30% productivity boosting tool that Goldman Sachs says we should be getting, and we shall get it. We will squeeze the blood out of the stone and get all the productivity from all the engineers. Like, has anyone's day to day truly, changed when it comes to the pressures of normal work?
I think it just increased our velocity a little bit, but in the end, it's just a better Google, so to say. It makes things faster. Prototyping is a lot less painful. But if you're doing things in production, you need to make sure the quality is right. So that can be a big hurdle sometimes.
So are you asking a question about AI mandates?
Pretty much.
Because they're very silly.
Aren't they, though?
I'm gonna be very political, and I'm gonna say I think they're very silly. Mainly because I think for half the reasons already. I mean, I share an office with a huge amount of developers at Proton, and quite a lot of them. When you look at the hiring bar at our company, it's 0.1% of applicants or something actually get through to the final stages, let alone get bloody hired. It's ridiculous, and that creates a side of when you realize you're surrounded by 22, 30, 23 PhDs in our office alone. It's insane. The funny part is when someone then turns around and says you must use AI, and they're like, "But I'm 50 times smarter than this thing." It actually offends them to the point that I don't want to use that thing. It slows me down, which again goes to the point I was kind of making earlier on, that some of this depends on where you are on the so-called spectrum of not that one, Stein, the other one, of skill and awareness. Because the truth is, I think everyone should be able to make their own choices. And we had a meetup in Barcelona. The whole company all descended on Fuerteventura. Had a great time. It was lovely. But there was a plenary session about AI, and everyone's looking at each other. Like, people are saying, "Well, I don't like it because of the copyright fraud, and I don't like it because it's killing the planet, and I don't like it because it's dumber than I am." And there was an awful lot of negativity in the room. And there was a couple of guys in the corner who'd all kind of clubbed together and sort of said, "We think it's pretty good." And you could see that everyone was getting ready to start a full-on fight. And I felt, for some reason, all of a sudden, this kind of dad moment came over me in my mind. I was like, "Oh, fuck it, give me the microphone." I have one piece of advice to all of you. Don't be a dick. Because the problem was, it turned into a meme that I shared the other day, which we'll try and bury in the show notes somewhere, where a guy is walking down the street and picks up a flag, says, "What's this?" And it's a red flag. And then a guy on the other side of the street's got a blue flag, and he just says, "Hi." And the red flag guy goes, "God, what an arsehole." Somehow we've ended up in the, you're either for AI or you're against AI, and you're not allowed to be in the middle. There is no gray area. It's for or against. And if you have an AI mandate, you get ripped to shreds on Twitter or whatever they call it today, because you're basically saying, "Oh, you must use AI because of all the benefits." And CEOs around the world are kind of losing their minds and pumping it down everyone's throat. And shut up. Don't be a dick. If you like it and you're good at it, use it. If you hate it, don't use it. Come on, man. Chris said it at AutoCon last time around. I think at AutoCon 3. He said AI is a tool. It's a tool.
I would agree on the part that I think it is important that everyone have the choice. But as soon as your project manager, your leader management have different expectations, because they read that you can now have a prototype in under an hour, then
With the PowerPoint
with
ready.
the PowerPoint and the video and the as soon as the expectations change, we could have a problem. For some people who say, on the long run, I'm maybe faster because I'm more intelligent than this thing. Over the year, I will have less bugs, I will have issues. But if the expectation is just we have time to market, tomorrow we have to deliver, then this could put an unhealthy pressure.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if
Yeah.
anyone has already experience on this.
I've got a few. I got a story that's kind of ties into this pretty nicely. I think there's some, delusions of grandeur out there because you have like folks like all of you have very deep expertise in a given domain. So you know what goes into say like a code upgrade on network gear. Like when you talk to somebody outside of networking, like I had a very spirited debate, like slash argument with someone recently where I was explaining why it's not a good idea to hand code upgrades into the hands of an agent, because when somebody outside of networking or someone that hasn't been entrenched in this industry for so long hears code upgrade or software upgrade, they think like I got my iPhone and I did this upgrade. It's like upgrading an app on a phone. This is what this person told me actually. And I was like, no, like a network device code upgrade is like the highest risk change that you could probably make in your company, especially if you have a fleet of data centers. So you're replacing the operating system on a device that is actively forwarding production traffic. Often you have thousands, sometimes tons of critical applications. And when things go wrong, things go really wrong and they have a cascading, impact of such. You get a complete outage. And a lot of times, in many companies that I've worked for, like we have, I was on the enterprise side, but we had out of band management for like very critical pieces of infrastructure, but not for everything, you know? And, and then you start breaking down, I started breaking down with this person, like, okay, this is like the actual sequence of this series of events, like something like, okay, like I need to validate what this current state is. And then I need to check this ROM like bootloader, this compatibility things. And then I have to verify how much storage is available. I have to actually transfer an image usually. I have to like, do some checksum magic. I have to modify a boot variable. Like the list goes on. And then I see their like eyes glazing over. And well, if something goes wrong, the AI can actually go out and look at Cisco's documentation and then come back and do a thing. And I'm like, no, once it does something wrong, you're out. You can't get back in the device. You are sunk. If you don't have out of band management, you're up the creek without a paddle. You got to get hands on at that point. And you're also, by the way, you're in this limited change window that's not very long that you probably had to, some of the companies I worked with, it was like signing an arms treaty to get like, time to work on the network. It's very complicated sometimes. So again, I'm a believer and I'm all in on some of the productivity and force multiplier aspects of AI. But what it's tends to be happening right now is folks that aren't entrenched in these disciplines are getting this false sense of security about how easy it is to like do things like code upgrades. This is not an easy thing usually for a large risk averse, maybe like a healthcare organization of sorts. So I think what's ultimately going to happen is in certain circumstances where this is tried or it's done, the problem that's going to happen is it's going to cause an outage, and then that company is going to say, okay, we lost $5 million through this outage. Now you're not letting AI touch the network ever again. Well, that sounds familiar. It sounds like, oh, network automation. Some of the things, I went through with that earlier on. Sorry, a little bit of a rant there.
No, I mean, standard. Also, the person who said all that needs to really find out what a gun tastes like, in my opinion, because they don't know what fear is. That is a lack of fear and a lack of respect for the demons that hide inside some of these hardware components. And that can only be taught through, well, pain and watching other people's pain. But, you see these happy path people who show up and they go, okay, I've modeled the buy button. People come in, they press buy, it goes in the cart, and we do the sale. And then they walk away. As soon as you start applying that to infrastructure, you're going to have a really bad time eventually, right? I mean, am I
I
wrong?
mean, you'll have a bad time regardless, right? Someone does a buy button, turns out the card's declined, but all of a sudden you now packaged the product and shipped it out. You're like, I have no idea how to undo this buy button that I just did.
And it
I-
was,
I
and he
think
put
it's-
in negative values for the amount. So you're transferring money to him now. Great.
Yeah, exactly. Or it's like, oh, I transferred a bunch of money. How do I get it out? Oh, I didn't do that. I think it's, the prototyping is awesome for a lot of people. And then the problem is a lot of top down doesn't, they don't understand. It's not because they are completely blind, but they just don't have the pure rigor that they have to enforce, the engineers. And so you have product managers and stuff like that going, cool, I created this demo. Let's build it. Cool. It's a cool idea. I did it. Build it. And I understand like the actual cost or requirements. So I haven't personally been affected by you need to do a 3x times your work and use AI to get that done. But it's something I've kind of, cautiously worried about is people going, yeah, AI worked great for this prototype and maybe made my life super easy. So that just means it makes all aspects of my life super easy. I go, no, there's some variance in there. It's a tool, right? You can't use a hammer for everything.
Yeah.
So-
This was something that Urs triggered me on earlier on. I'm sorry, but we can't compare all things to all things at all time. The ability to build a prototype, like Ryan said, or the ability to fix a small constrained problem with a small constrained set of instructions is easy in AI sense today because of the technology gains we've had so far. But building an entire system with it, no, no, we can't do that. And it is, in some senses, I have to step away from the terminology of it's a tool, and I do actually think it's closer to a weapon. Right, a machete in the hands of a guy who runs through the jungle, he can get through some bush really fast, and he can make great progress. But you give it to someone else, and they'll chop their leg off.
Or worse,
Right.
someone else's leg off. Bart,
Sorry,
you
Bart,
seemed
I
like
jumped in on you.
Bart has a good
Yeah,
idea.
That's fine, right? So, question: all of you are using AI, and it has enabled at least some of you to get stuff done in a quicker time than it would otherwise do. Do you compensate to get the same outcome at the end of the day?
What, take a vacation, or quit, clock
Work
out
less.
early?
Work
clock
less.
out early,
Work less hard.
I'll tell you what, there's an interesting, I'll find the article that you can put in the show notes. There is an interesting set of research recently that says that this recent bout of AI revolution has actually made the AI enabled engineer less efficient, but not for the reason you think. You immediately think is that they're now spending too much time doing planning or testing or something like that. No, the problem is they take on too many things at once. So the person who is incredibly kind of AI obsessive will try and think like they've got, if agents can do it, I can do it. I'll have 9 things on the go at once, and they'll try to context switch between them. And guess what happens? You can't do anything well because you have brain drain. You have, the fatigue of context switching is a real thing. So when you say, do you compensate? I think in my situation, where I work, if you don't work 120%, there's something wrong with you. And I've always been very strong on pushing back against the overreach of that on my family life, because I'm not having that. I burnt out twice in my life. I'm not doing it 3 times. I don't think I'd make it back. And the way that I handle that is to make sure that I kind of give myself strict to-dos every day and strict to-dos every week, not quite Pomodoro, but give myself very constrained rules. And all I'm finding right now is that I can pick up something that normally I just wouldn't bother starting and complete it. But that doesn't mean that I'm doing net more than I was doing before. It's just when I pick what I'm going to do, before I would discard a bunch of things and just do something else. Now there are more things that I can pick up, but that's not necessarily meaning that I'm going to do more with my day in a lengthening sense or any of those kinds of things. All it means is I can pick different things to do. There's more in the allow list than would have been there before.
So in general, what I'm hearing is like the undertone is this. Yes, the floor has dropped, but the ceiling stayed the same, and we have to work to a certain standard, but then again, quality is a pricing tier, not a moral virtue. So makes you wonder, like, maybe it's okay to slop out a bunch of stuff and call it a day. If that's what, if we're paying for slop, maybe we make slop and then we quit early. But then again, the bosses aren't going to let you take that time. They're going to put, the extra 30% of work on you. Nobody's going to give it to the middle. It's not going to go to the middle layer. It's going to float up top, to the boss men. But the one thing I wanted to ask you guys about, though, is if if there's this nostalgic longing for, the time when men were men, women were women, and cats were cats. And, real engineering used to happen back in the day. But now the kids, you hear this story about Cisco a lot. Like, oh, Cisco was great back in the day. And then when you go talk to the guys who were back in the day, you go, well, actually, we weren't that great. And we just bought stuff. Oh, okay. And then you go farther back. We just bought stuff. And then, you get to the founding. And then it's like, we just stole some stuff. Okay, great founding of a company. There's no longing for a nostalgic engineering past where our discipline and rigor existed. And we were so strong and great. But then again, have you ever trusted the documentation from a vendor, honestly, when they say the upgrade window is going to take X amount of time? It's not going to take X amount of time. They're lying. TAC is lying. I don't care what vendor it is, right? So how do we balance this this new, quote unquote, new world view that the permanent underclass is about to be created? San Francisco tech bros can't be listened to. I'm getting really tired of this. You're either going to be a serf or the ultimate AI hypermind, and there's nothing in between. What should we do? Like, listeners?
I mean, do what the engineers have always done, right? You have to adapt to technology. If you're in technology, you're an engineer, right? And you're not adapting to technology, then I'm sorry to say is you're in the wrong place. But also always take a measured approach. Right? Like we've had, there's always been hype cycles of a bunch of stuff. And AI has been such a magic hype cycle because it's such a large impact and such a wide reach. No technology has really happened that before. Because that's why they compare it to the internet, because of wide reach technology. But it's like you're rigor and everything like that. Like, yeah, I could solve everything with tunnels, and then my entire network looks like absolute crap. But it gets from point A to point B sometimes, and so you can do that. I mean, so it's just put on your engineer hat and go, cool. What is the actual data-driven outcomes and decisions, and what does the metrics look like, and then what actually happened, and then take that objective view. But learn, adapt, and measure yourself.
This is the part when if you does a contrary thing. Come on, do something spicy for the audience.
So, yes, it's very different than every other technology and invention that we have, right? And yes, we need to adapt and use it. But do you think, and I had a question written down here, right, is we are using it. Do you feel that, twofold. So do you feel that your knowledge of what you knew is now slipping because you use AI more and therefore touching stuff less, right? Either it be your programming language, or it could be your Python, whatever, or you're like, well, I don't do Terraform every day, so let AI do that. And now I'm even less knowledgeable than I was last week, because now every time I need to do Terraform, I use AI to build it. So from that angle, if we adapt more and more and lean into the AI more and more, are we gonna lose more and more knowledge and skills that we've built? This group of people, Marco excluded, he's too young, but this group of people that has spent 20-25 years building knowledge, building intellect around several of these topics, now leaning into AI, are we gonna become dumber because we do stuff less with it?
Yes.
No. I think
Yes.
no, you're not going to be.
No.
You're going to be dumber if you don't come with a measured approach and look at that as what context you need to continue to have and what context you need to continue to evolve, right? There's obviously technologies that, come and go, like, right? No one's really studying frame relay, right? Like, point-to-point over frame relay and stuff like that. You're not looking about virtual circuits and stuff. But so you have new technology, right? But you're still understanding the basics and stuff like that, right? ASIC, LPM, stuff like that is going to be pretty standardized. There can be enhancements, but you kind of go through, you can learn what they started to now, it kind of follows a pattern. I think it's just context, right? And then you have to decide for yourself what context are you okay dropping and what context are you okay not dropping, stuff like that. Like, to be honest, do I know the Netbox APIs by heart? No, but I don't need to. I can just always reference them when I need to and stuff like that. So like, yeah, there's some technology that can go. Yeah, there's only slices in a pie that you can have. So if you want to add more slices, you have to take a slice out. But I don't think it's gonna make you dumber. I think it's just gonna take you to, what are you dropping out? And you have to be measured in that of like, is that required now and long term?
So it's not about cutting corners, it's about cutting the right corners.
I would have an opinion on that. So there's this
Well,
saying
a
like,
pizza has no corners, like a pie doesn't have, it's a circle. So no
Hey, can I
corners
add
there.
something real quick? 'Cause I was the one saying, yeah, we're all going to get dumber. And I guess it kind of depends on what you mean by dumber, too. Like, that's like, of course, we're just not going to go from being like, okay, reasonably measured and smart to just dumb. But I mean, I can give examples like pre-AI. So, like, I worked on a big network at one point that was OSPF almost exclusively for the IGP a long time ago. And I moved to another company and there was, I was in a lot of BGP all the time for years. And then I went back to another network that was OSPF and set up differently, and I was lost for a while. Like, it was like I almost had to like relearn OSPF again. Yeah, I know routing. Yeah, I can follow a packet. Yeah, I can follow, okay, this is going frames, layer 2 to this routing protocol, redistributed here, blah, 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 blah. But like OSPF has its intricacies, and my domain-specific knowledge, not using it for a little while, slipped pretty hard. I mean, even like playing music. So I could read music and play guitar and stuff, and I did that for a while, took a break for a little bit, and then I came back and, okay, I couldn't read music anymore. Therefore, I could like kind of play by ear, but I couldn't read the same sheet music I used to read. I had to like
That's
really
not-
do a hard refresh.
That's not dumber. That's just your context has shifted, right? Like, if you work on OSPF and then you move to BGP and you haven't touched OSPF for like 5 years and you're rusty or your knowledge has dropped, that doesn't mean you're dumber. It means you've learned other stuff. I guess
Yeah.
is to
Exactly.
make sure that
Yeah, definitely.
the point that I have to be clear about, and this is a lot of the concerns of AI, is the amount of be able to touch things and learn new things, is to still keep that rigor involved of like, hey, I want to learn new programming language. I want to learn stuff. Is don't just take it at face value. Like, you still have to do the hard work and the deep dives and stuff like that to keep your knowledge base up. But
The way that
I
the
don't-
question is framed, though, it's like, okay, like, are you coming in and you did know something? Now you're using AI and now you don't know that something as well. And that's why I said it's important to define what, dumber means in the context of the conversation.
Right. I don't think my level of knowledge has dropped. I think it might have shifted to a few things, and you have to be aware of that. Of like, okay, am I spending too much time diving into the stuff with actually no real benefit? Right. I can go in a rabbit's hole of for instance, if I'm not doing any multicast, I can become an expert in multicast, but if I don't use it, it's something had to my French disappeared because I learned multicast. It's like you just have to be cognizant of like what you're dropping for picking up the knowledge, right?
I
No
can't
one's so
believe
human.
you
Yeah.
that I
if,
let
if
people
you don't
on
use
this
certain
show.
things.
Yeah. No, I can't believe I let people on this show, dear listener, that don't know where the LSA Type 7 originated. I'm going to ask them all. I'm going to kick everyone who doesn't. All right. Show of hands.
Isn't the not so stubby?
Not so chubby. Oh dear.
What
That's a
about the
Delta.
opaque LSAs now? Okay,
The Type
eight
6
to
that we
11?
don't use. What's going
The
on?
group LSA.
But
I
like,
think the words you guys are
OSPF
looking
can get in the bin. No one cares. Use ISIS.
dude, you can take your address schema and shove it
Wrong
up your ass.
podcast.
John's coming after my
I
burger.
agree. ISIS is
Speaking
better than OSPF,
speaking
but
of Russ White,
OSPF implementations are better than ISIS implementations for a lot of vendors. So
speaking
They've
of
actually
Russ
been run
White,
and tested. That's why you run OSPF, dude. Nobody turned on ISIS on a firewall, dude. Nobody ever has. Don't do it. But
there
to
you
the
go, why
point
not?
of the speaker. But there was this quote. People, some of our more CLI focused friends who might be at the end of their careers or at the start, and not. I've met a few of these guys that don't like the AI much. It kind of, if you're trying to use empathy, you kind of feel them. It's like, yeah, I was real, And now the currency has changed, and I feel empty and dead inside. And I don't, they've put too much of their identity in being able to quote, exact CLI commands, to which I say, that was never a good idea, dude. Like, I put 3 years of my life into Cisco iOS and iOS XE. That was not a good idea. It was too much. It was too much. But,
Yeah.
what do we say to those people?
And
No,
speaking of lack
there
of empathy, Detroit-style pizza has corners. That's just West Coast elitism. I can't believe you didn't pick up on
Boom.
that.
How dare you?
Oh no, I said pie. So yeah, pie.
Okay. I'm just saying.
But pizza's
you know,
same thing,
Steinn
like,
said,
Pizza
these
Square.
West Coast elitists
Pizza Square.
to coming in and imposing their opinions.
Fascist
But you know what? In
pigs.
Detroit, they have
I
corners
mean,
for pizza.
I am a West Coast elitist. I am moving to the Midwest of sorts, but I will forever be a West Coast elitist. So that's fair.
There is for all of you podcast aficionados, you probably would have listened to Russ White on the Hedge, where he went through some old engineering textbooks. And one of my favorite quotes that just it always sits with me was where he found a book from like 1910. We must remember, however, that the mind of the engineer is primarily a workshop and not a workhouse or a lumber room of mere information. It is a place where things get done, not a place where things go and sit. Your facts are better stored in your library room, where it is not so valuable as it is of the mind, and the information, furthermore, is better preserved. Memory is a poor reliance to the engineer as to the accountant. Both alike should consult their books when they want exact facts. Stop trying to
it was-
memorize stuff.
He was not saying you should use AI to get facts.
But he was not saying that you need to remember everything all the time either.
Yeah, but
And
I
I
want
think that's the conversation that Ryan and William were having. That does it make me dumber because I don't do this thing every day? And my pushback to both sides of that one argument is, if you're using AI in the vibe coding sense, you're saying, I want something, click the button, accept and don't read, and just crack on like it's, the terms and conditions from iTunes. Guess what? You're going to get yourself in trouble. And if I'm being honest, you freaking deserve it.
All the
should not
Axios
be
installers
doing
right
it.
now.
Yeah, but maybe I want to come back to the getting dumber. So there's this saying like the brain is like a muscle, right? I know that it's not a fact, it's a neural network actually. But the thing is, and I can recommend to everyone, the book Make It Stick. So if you read something, you learn it almost zero. The the thing when your brain learns and memorize something is on the retrieval process. And I for myself, when I now look at, let's say, a make file, past in the days I will probably write the make file easy. Nowadays, make files mainly are used in my case in labs, so I don't really care so much about the make files. It's just handy to have them. So I generate them. But of course, I have to double check all the commands, but that is doable. But the same with regex. Who of you can now read and write the regex? And who does use AI?
I've got a T-shirt downstairs that said "Stand back, I know regex" on the XKCD.
Listener, there's only two things that
Superman
you need
comes
to know.
swooping in.
Only thing you need to know about Regex is two things, okay? When you walk in and you start a deal, you take your hat off. You put a little hat at the top of the thing. And every deal ends with $1. So that's the end of the string. That's all you need to know. That's all you need
I like
to know.
that. Actually, I really like that.
That's from Narbek.
Well,
Narbek Kocharian, the greatest CCA trainer that ever lived. And that's how he explains how to do the Regex BGPAS path tracking. Boys, you start and you walk in, you take off the hat, and then the deal ends with $1. And then that's all you need.
That was the only CCA boot camp I did was Narvik in
He's the best.
in California,
god.
and it was great. Awesome. But I'm not gonna go into my CCA certification thoughts, so I'll stop
That's
there.
another.
but
That's
yeah.
another podcast, dear listener.
But yeah, I
But-
don't think I think we're all kind of saying the same thing. I don't think people are feeling dumber. It's just if there's knowledge that you need to make sure that you're an expert on, right? And then you hand that off to something else and don't do the due diligence to keep yourself apprised of it, then you are going to be dumber. But that's just like, I'm sorry, but that's just, you're going to be dumber for like everything in life, right? if you are supposed to be, a bank account, like you're supposed to understand like accounting and stuff like that, and you hand it off to someone else, you're gonna get dumber. It's like that's just fact of life, right? So you have to make sure that you still remain the expert. You can hand off stuff that you don't want to be the expert, or you can hand off stuff and then make sure that you're still the expert. But you can't hand off stuff and go, oh, I really should know about this, but I don't care. I'm going to ask AI to do it. Then yes, you are, because you're not learning anything. That context window is just going to shrink. It's not going to shift. It's just going to shrink.
So we all are normally against vendor locking, right, in the network engineering. But what we are now doing is AI locking, right?
Everyone who's against vendor lock-in, get out of the room anyway. I'm sorry. That's another one of my pet peeves. You just freaking triggered me again.
Pick a wife and you marry her. You pick a spouse, one or two. If you're in that religion, 3 wives tops, 4 husbands tops, and then you marry them, and those are your people forever. That's how life works.
Vendor lock-in's not a thing. It's
What
not
is
a
AI
thing.
lock-in? Please define that, Urs.
The models, I'm guessing, you have to use a certain model.
No, we all like
we're locked
Claude.
into the concept,
we
the
all do
tool, the
Claude.
workflow.
To the way we work. If we now continue working like this, and we depend on AI to get some stuff done because we are not having it in our fingers anymore. As soon as the prices for the tokens explode, we have to spend the money, because otherwise we have to go back to the Stack Overflow, who is not up to date anymore, and that could be a risk.
I don't buy that at all.
I felt
Sorry,
like a
mate.
heroin addict the other day during a Claude outage. I can admit that. I felt like I was just like going like, oh God, I need my Okay, I'll try some Gemini. Oh, it doesn't hit the same. It doesn't feel the same.
So you
This
need
is
to
a
go into
question-
that place where they talk to, people who have unhealthy relationship with their AI bot.
Hey.
Is that the
He
new? Is that
consents.
the AA? Is that becoming Anthropic Anonymous?
AI.
Then is that?
Anthropic Anonymous, like, oh yeah, they 99% uptime. When you calculate that, and it's always during business hours, it's really, really bad, guys.
but remember, right? We're still somewhat at the forefront of the whole AI thing, right? So when I chose the word dumber carefully in a sense, but we, again, most of the group has 20 years experience. Sorry, Marco.
Not really,
And
really the
there's-
Marco right now.
He's 12 years old, but he
wow.
has a beard. Really impressive beard.
He has far more beard than I'll ever have.
I think
So,
he's the same age
kudos
as
to
me,
that.
minus a couple. So it's awful.
But still, there's a lot of intellect that we build over the years, right? And you don't just lose it. Sure, as Ryan pointed out, you certain contexts you'll drop certain things. You're like, yeah, can I live without it? Yes, sure. That will get a bit less top of mind. Let's not say dumber. Less top of mind.
Your mom dies, you
um,
forget her phone number. That's okay.
That's fine. But that's our generation, right? There's the whole the new kids on the block, just getting fresh out of school. They use it. They don't use Google, right? They use AI. If AI is down, they have a problem. It's a fact. How do you? They will build up so I'm sure they will build up a skill, right? And skills on multiple things. But how they build it is very different than what we did and how we did it.
We had Google Foo. If you're really good at using date start and all that fancy Google shit, you were like a god, right? In the 90s and early 2000s.
We were Alta Vista, man.
Yeah, we were Alta Vista and man. I was Yahooing stuff. We had Google Foo. The kids, the top kids, right? Kids are like, oh, the kids will have, AI Foo. They'll have, don't install if a network engineer who just got out of school is like, I'm going to deploy my own AI project and install Axios, the latest version, please. I'm not going to pin anything. I'm not going to wait a week and, get the old package and make sure the North Koreans haven't hijacked the whole thing. I'm not going to put in, basic firewalling on the container level just to stop it from moving laterally in my environment. No. The bot said it was ready to go. So I pressed yes because they're saving on tokens and the security review is extra. They're going to have AI Foo, right?
I get you. I get where you're kind of where you're going, Bart. And so just correct me if I'm wrong if that is, it's kind of almost like, like our generation with a bunch of news influx, right? Like a bunch of stations came in. It's not like you just get a paper and it got a couple, sources. Now have like 100 different sources or 1,000 of all the phones and all the media and stuff like that. And so it's hard to decipher. You get this huge thing. You don't like, how do I build through that? I think people in the AI thing is what I hope, right? This is because again, this is the future. It's unknown, right? What I hope is the rigor will still apply. They'll just have to learn to dive into it more, right? There's still going to be RSCs. There's still going to be stuff like that. There's still be papers. There's still be conferences talking about this stuff like that. That still will be hopefully a core concept for the people actually building it, like designing and creating it. And then it'll be up to you to actually like find that. And that might be now like finding a needle in a haystack, and that'll suck, but I can't guarantee anything.
I got a
Like-
question, Bart. So is kind of the essence of what you were getting at is like AI for the new generation coming along is kind of creating a very comfortable path where someone can like produce results and output without like developing understanding like at that foundational level when they're younger. Is that kind of what you were getting at?
Well, in a way, right? Now I'm getting maybe out of our comfort zone, right? So just before AI, we had a generation that we started with Facebook, right? Newer generation used TikTok and Instagram, right? And it had influencers, and everybody was posting stuff out there, which some people took for truth, right? Not necessarily the truth. Now we have the same thing with AI, right? You post something or you ask a question, you get an answer, and it will tell you you're right, and here's your answer, right? And I don't know if I'm now talking to the newer generation and they ask me like, hey, what's my path? What's my path forward, and how do I get from where I am now to somewhere where you at, or something along the lines, right? The story and the path is very different, but I don't have a very good answer for them because they are already getting their information so very differently than I did.
Oh, you have an answer for them. It's you're gonna die in the water wars and you will never own a home. That's your answer. And then you walk away.
Okay, boomer.
Right?
I tell you what's interesting. When I was going through school at the beginning of the CD-ROM had only really just been invented when I was in junior school. And before that, if you were doing studying and you needed to go and look something up, you went into a library, these big buildings. If you're listening and you're in Gen Z, there are these big buildings that were full of books. And in those buildings, you would then have a computer that you'd go and find that you could. I need to find a book on bananas or legs or frogs or whatever. And inevitably, if what you were looking for was a bit unusual, you'd end up looking for something. Everyone raise your hands if you remember these massive tomes called encyclopedias.
My God.
I went there, bitch.
From the
And an
olden
encyclo-
times.
An encyclopedia was a collection of books that basically had distilled knowledge of all the world. And what's interesting is that as the CD-ROM appeared and computers and the internet were still quite hard to cut, like the shipboard modems, all this kind of thing, Encarta, this wonderful thing that Microsoft built out called, Encarta, which was a CD-ROM that had 7 discs or something in the first iterations, I think it was. You put disc 1 in, you'd install it, and it would basically just install the index. And you'd search for stuff, and it says, insert disc 4. You plug it in, the spin, and then it would show you some content. And everyone said, it's going to ruin research for everybody. If everyone can just get a CD-ROM and put it in a machine and get all of the human knowledge, it's going to ruin research for everybody. And then the internet came.
And it was
And we
good
had
for a
Google.
while. It was good
And
for
you
a
could
while.
sit
They
there and
did
you...
kind of ruin it for a bit, though.
Now it's
ruining
ruined.
it now.
It's now
But-
ruined. It was okay for a bit.
But
I think-
I don't.
Come on.
Hold on. I think that's just the price we have to. But you have to be really cognizant. So if there's anything for the younger generation to say is critical thinking is absolute requirement now. I mean, it was before, but now there's so much stuff that you really have to be critical about that stuff. Like, yeah, because my generation, you have the oh, what did that Wikipedia says, and like that's not actual facts. You're not actually going to the actual sources and looking that up. You're just copying what someone else said, and hopefully, it's bragging, but it's like rip, right? Riding my rumor or something like that. Distance, like, yeah, okay, they said that's the best. I believe 'em. So like,
chemicals
yeah.
are turning the frogs gay. Sorry, I have to put in a joke every 5 minutes.
No,
for
I mean,
clips.
but if someone uploads that, I think AI just is going to make this, 10 times worse. So it's just, you get 10 times or 1,000 times the amount of information, but again, you get 1,000 times information that are not source-based, as someone distilled, whether that's a human or an AI and stuff like that. So you really have to be critical about what you research and look into.
But I think
One of my most entertaining links that was shared to me over the years from Wikipedia was an article. Wikipedia article about
Do I need
this.
what? Do I need to beep any?
Don't
of
put that in the show
Yeah,
notes.
but this is
Do not
the
put that in the
internet.
show notes.
It's going
there.
in the show notes, man. The
No,
AI
this
does
is
the
the
show notes.
internet right now. This is the internet right now.
I'm not getting monetized, am I?
So back to Ryan, right? So yes,
No, but that's what I'm saying.
critical
Like,
thinking is very, very important, right? Which might be the toughest thing for the new generation to be able to do.
but it was always important. Is
I mean, it
what
was
I'm
hard
getting
for
at.
art. It was hard for my generation, I think. I'm not going to try and,
I still don't do it.
generationalize that. But yeah, it was like, Wikipedia and stuff like that, and this whole stuff. It's someone's viewpoint. You're like, oh, okay, cool. Like the news. Like now you have TikTok and stuff like that. You have 1,000.
Yeah,
Like
but you're
it's just
from
getting
a
increasingly
generation.
harder.
You're from a generation that had the time and the skill set to write an actual physical letter, which took longer than 3 seconds to write.
If you've
Right.
seen my handwriting, you would not believe that.
He wouldn't get a
Sure,
reply,
but
he
the
could write the
generation
letter.
these days is like you have 3 seconds to make your elevator pitch, and else I'm out. Right? That's the time span that you get,
I think
and that's a challenge.
for
It
me
is a challenge.
the big issue or the big difference is how we consume the information, right? Our generation, we are used to read. But what 10 years or a little more working at the university taught me is that every year they lose the ability to read. Nowadays, you can give them a lab instruction with 4 pages, and it does not take 5 minutes, and they ask you, I have this and this prompt, what I have to do. And you can point with the finger on the PDF on the display and say, read this line. They read the line and they look at you, what I have to do. So
That's you
the
teaching them to
capability
read.
of reading is fading because the newer generation, in my opinion, is consuming information different, and that is changing how they work.
But they're just going to take a picture of the 4 pages and put it in the AI now. So problem solved, right? Problem solved.
Of course.
Yeah, and it could, right? That's the beauty of technology and stuff like that. Is it could
But
very
that-
well just like this is be a non-issue, right? Or it could be an issue, and it could be someone's going to take advantage of the fact that this stuff isn't being done. Someone does the research, does the high quality stuff, and now knows something that most people don't. And they get paid for it. I
Yes,
think
what- This comes back to my point that we are getting depending on AI.
Yeah, well, I mean, we'll probably, I mean, nowadays, did Stephen Hawking's really did a 1080 on the half pipe? With AI, it's hard to tell sometimes. So
Stephen Hawking
agree, there's-
or
there's-
Tony Hawk. Both.
You guys are just
Right,
doing
yeah.
the equivalent of yelling, "Get off my lawn" at the new technology. That's all you
This
guys
is-
are doing
this
right
is what
now.
I'm
I mean,
saying.
exactly,
this is
100%.
This is
Yeah.
the same thing. Keep going off John's earlier example. If you keep going forward, you didn't just get the internet. You ended up getting Wikipedia, which is, edited by people randomly who volunteer. I mean,
no,
and
they're on the spectrum.
AI is just a tool doing the exact same thing as John's analogy. All it is it's a tool that can go and gather and sort a ton of data and give you something that it thinks is relevant to what you're asking for. That's all it's
Yeah.
doing. So, I mean, it's just the next evolution of that same encyclopedia to, Encarta encyclopedia being on a CD-ROM to being Wikipedia to now AI. In that regard, I mean,
Yeah,
and eventually everyone complains that, oh, this new thing is, the old way was better. And guess what? There's going to be something that comes after AI that everyone is going to say AI was better than whatever that thing is.
But saying that
It's
old way
just
was
this evolution. It's just
saying
what
the
we
old way was
do.
better is basically just saying the way I learned to do it was the best way to learn to do it because that's how you learn to do it. I mean, every generation does that, right? I
Don't
mean,
be nostalgic for a party you never attended. That is.
and you know, just kind of continuing it back where we were from there, you know, I don't think it's about getting dumber. It's about knowledge atrophy. Knowledge atrophies all the time with you, right? Like there's things I learned to do in high school, especially math wise, I haven't used in a long time. I don't remember that stuff anymore, you know? Yeah, I didn't know how to program Python to begin with worth a damn anyway. AI is helping me do it a little bit better. And if it were to go away, I got to figure that out again still, you know? And that's the way we do things, you know?
There's a
I got asked
whiteboard
help.
behind you, dude. Do long division
Yeah.
right now, or I kick you.
No,
Like
oh,
long
I'm gonna
division
be in
right
trouble.
now.
But the other day I got asked to help on an issue and I haven't troubleshot anything in a while because I've been doing more automation and I had to knock the cobwebs off. And that's just kind of the way it works, you know, and that's the way we work as humans anyway. That's just normal problems.
I think
Yeah.
Joseph
One thing
hit
I
on
think
what
that's. I go ahead, Mark.
No, I was gonna say, like, I think Joseph hit what I want to kind of interject there as well. It's really about atrophy, right? There's probably a lot of things that pilots used to do at the outset of aviation that maybe they wouldn't have to do today. But when the autopilot turns off, you hope that they can still fly that plane, right? Like, there's certain fundamental things, and that's critical thinking is probably before Wikipedia. My teachers in high school were saying, don't trust Wikipedia, consider critical thinking, consider like sources, find other sources. And then going forward, critical thinking, as you said, like if you get X amount of data, maybe apply X more amount of critical thinking to that data. All the people that were my mentors at the outset of my career were, they're working with like DBM and Perl and so many things. I'm sure many of them suck at Perl now. But if they can still solve the constraints to still apply critical thinking to unlocking their networks or infrastructure, then it's probably okay at the end of the day. But yes, I'm sure that there's a higher risk for us to be more dependent on AI because we can probably get our fingers into more things. So maybe that's what kind of Urs is trying to pull out there.
One thing that's interesting too that I've been reading actually quite a bit about recently. I think one thing that makes this AI prompt process a little bit different is your brain has like these two major networks that like take kind of turns. So you have, and I'm not a doctor, I might get some of this phrasing wrong, but you have like the default mode network, and it's kind of like the creativity. Like you have ideas, your imagination, you imagine solutions, yada yada yada, and you really feel like you've taken like ownership of something that you've like built or thought up. And then you have like this, like this executive control network. And it's kind of like your judge. It evaluates, it decides, it accepts, it rejects, it does all
You're
these things.
describing schizophrenia,
And-
dude. We got to get you checked out.
So AI coding locks you into the judge mode all day. So you prompt, you evaluate, you accept, you reject, you repeat, you repeat, you repeat. And this creative network thing barely is firing. So I think two problems sort of ensue here, and people call it the AI or prompting hangover or something. Your prefrontal cortex, like the hardware behind the executive function, it's burning glucose really fast and it fatigues like really hard. So without the creative breaks to like let it recover, you're like grinding the same circuits for 8 hours straight, maybe if you're Steinsy, 30 hours straight. And
I got
it's
pills.
and it's why we're exhausted, and like maybe we need to buy some hot tubs and have a cigar or something. And
Brings us to the sponsor
second,
of our show.
the creative ownership is encoded through the default mode network. So if that network is like never activated, the work it doesn't feel like it's mine. It's because neurologically it kind of isn't mine. So the result, I guess what I'm trying to say is you're really productive. You're a lot more tired, and you don't feel connected to what it is that you're producing. So interesting, and I'm sure we won't know the impacts of this if they're bad or really bad or not really bad at all, and for many years.
That to me, I think, is a pattern that I think really does fly at the moment right now, where you can see that like the concept of a vibe coder is someone who just throws a spec in of whatever quality, lets the agents go nutty, and then at the end of it goes now push to prod enter, and I think some of it comes to it's like some of the terminology I see used in a load of these skills absolutely infuriates the life out of me. You're a programming god of 25 years experience. Like, no, you're not. You're a bunch of zeros.
3-degree.
You're a bunch of zeros and ones in a box, mate. And it's not a person, it's a machine. Stop giving it a personality. Stop projecting onto this damn thing. This poor little computer is now having to try and take on your personality or the personality you wish for it, which is so Freudian. I don't even know where to start.
We have to push
But-
back on that, John. Like the Freudian thing actually kind of works because you wanted to
Bullshit.
communicate you in a certain way back. So if I ask you
No.
to talk to me like you are Steinsy network, you paste in your own LinkedIn profile, you're going to get answers that kind of sound like, you, unless you talk to me like you are the leader of a tribe in Northeast Africa and you will debug this network, you're going to get a weird reply, right? I mean,
Nah.
compared to what I'm used to, right? So you
You
want
can-
something
you can-
similar to yourself, right?
No, you don't. God.
I think from a context of the output, it makes a difference. But
That's
it
all I'm
does not
talking
make
about. The context of the tokens, man.
it does not make a difference.
I wanted
of
an
the
Icelandic.
result.
You are an Icelandic network engineer, and I want you to reply in Icelandic. Okay, you will allow that, right? As a pre-prompt.
Well,
Of
I'm
course.
talking about skill. I'm
Yeah,
talking
yeah.
about
It
And
is
then you
not a
put-
skill. Yeah.
And then you put you put the Icelandic skill, and then you put you will talk to me like you are an educator of a stupid network engineer. Me being the stupid one, and the computer is supposed to pretend to be the teacher. So teach me about it as we go along. So that becomes part of the personality stuff, right? But when you put
So-
like you're talking about the silly stuff where it's like you're a CCA with exactly 7 years experience, and you will fix this
And-
network. Make no mistakes.
And you don't. Yeah, exactly. You don't make mistakes. This sentence is just sorry, but
that was
I mean,
early days.
We all agree that that's childish. What I'm getting at is that there is a number of research papers out there that they're very clearly state putting ego and personality into your skills files is just a great way to waste money. You're just going to chew up tokens and it's going to maybe fluff up your output for you. But when what you're trying to do is get a job done, what you need to do is give him some very clear instructions. I said him. I'm doing it
I
myself.
know. About to
Did
say
you
it.
use gender
you're
in my
projecting
LLM?
worst
You
thing.
sexist pig, get off my show. Wait a
Not
minute,
even
we're all
sexist.
middle-aged. Oh shit, we're all middle-aged white men. I just realized we've created an echo chamber. Except Marco,
Doesn't it show
you're
about
the
network
spiciest
automation?
one, and you're as white as I am. So this is really bad. This is really bad,
But
guys.
we shouldn't personify this stuff. Why are we
If you-
personifying it? Give it instructions. Here's a good pattern. Here's another good pattern. Here's some bad patterns that you should and shouldn't use. That is a bit like here is a textbook that's been distilled down that explains how to do networking. Give him a skill that looks actually functional and useful, rather than say you're a CCIE, you know OSPF. Like, shut up.
I'm not
It's
too-
rubbish.
If you ask
I'm not too
Bart
upset
that,
with that.
he will tell you,
You
that
clearly
it
aren't
helps.
a CCIE then, because I am offended for my people. Good day, sir.
I am not a CCA, but I'm again, we're at the forefront of a lot of stuff. A lot of stuff is evolving and stuff, and I think
Mhm.
is more and more stuff will come out. It's like we can't, we can look at the past and see the trends going through the past that kind of predict the future, and that's why I'm saying is like, yeah, we had the influx of information before. There seems to be more influx, so really have to critical think that, but do what
I
works best for you.
Yeah.
Be comfortable and be happy, and then you
Mhm.
go to your hot tub and be happy.
There you go. It all comes back to the hot tub. But John has a really good point. But then again, we are in the witch doctor, or as I like to call it, the Wi-Fi engineer, walk around with a magic stick that's measuring magical energies in the air. Ooh, engineering. That we're in that part of the prompting phase where it's like you put in the prompt twice and you're going to get a better result sometimes. Or you put in this magic token and you feel like, when you put in this magic word, you feel like the prompt is better. Like a lot of this stuff is a lot of, hookah booka, maybe this work, A/B testing and, like
Testing.
sometimes it
I'm
works.
sorry, you just used the word testing in the concept of vibe engineers. You're mad. The what I was steering towards was one of the things William said, which I really do want to sort of remind people, is that too easy at the moment. It is far too easy to disassociate yourself from the code that is produced by an AI agent to the point that you can't be bothered to test it. You can't be bothered to validate the output because in some senses, right now, with the quality of the output you get from these machines, or word salad shakers, as I still call them, inevitably what you end up with is something that is plausibly, statistically the most accurate based on what you asked for. And there's going to be mistakes or problems, or more often than not, vast inefficiencies. Terribly inefficient programming code, very badly written, but it works. And one of the problems that I see right now far too often is the kind of the I have succeeded. The success criteria is the code has compiled or the code runs.
And the dopamine was released in the brain of the developer.
Yeah, it works. Yeah,
We know some
buddy.
people like that.
But when you're in that position, if you're not testing, it did the tests, it built me tests. I don't need to test it. I don't need to validate it. Congratulations, you're going to be owned in 2 months' time. Whatever it is that you built is going to get ripped to shreds by the first pen test that comes near it, or a free pen test from the Russians. It's just ludicrous because we don't own the code in our minds. We don't give it that kind of ownership, or we don't apply our own kind of backing to it, and all of a sudden it just becomes disposable, and it becomes just something, ship it, send it, let's see what happens.
So that brings me to one of the questions I had. So is best practices and code quality still relevant?
It's a pricing tier, dude. Code quality is a pricing tier.
I
Doesn't
mean,
always apply.
absolutely. Again, writing code is not the hard part of software engineering. And so if your code quality sucks, you're going to make everything else 10 times worse, right? If I have to review 500 lines of slop, it's
You're
gonna make
assuming
my
this
hurt.
is getting reviewed by someone. It's getting pushed to prod, run twice to do the migration of a large enterprise or something, and then it gets thrown away. Then the quality is allowed to be, right?
Yeah, but that becomes different from a service to a script and
Of
other stuff like that.
course,
Right.
exactly.
So again, it depends on what you're building, depends on your audience, and it depends on your
He
requirements.
said the bad
right?
word. He said the bad word. Get him. He said it depends. Get him. Get him, guys.
I know, right? Then there has to be some nuance in there. Oh,
And reality, I mean, actual software developers and engineers have been shipping bad code for decades. I mean, you get bugs and things all the time. And how many times you got to open up a ticket with a vendor? I mean, they're not all of a sudden using AI the last 20 years and didn't tell anybody, are they? I mean, that's part of the thing. I mean,
Interims.
yeah, I get code that's a little bit better than mine. I still get problems with it, but I do what everyone else does. I figure out what the problem is and I fix it and move on and wait for another problem to crop up. I test it the best I can. And, I think we all, and somebody's already said it once, production is not predictable in many instances. Just because it works in your test lab or your test network in your lab, it doesn't mean it's going to work in production the same way. So you got to, you're going to get problems, and you got to just fix them as they come up.
Well, luckily,
Yeah,
my
but there's
pacemaker
definitely-
wasn't made by a vibe coder.
yeah, see, exactly. There's definitely it's not just it's the same, right? There's definitely a gap, and we're gonna figure out a wider gap. We see more outages lately of companies and stuff like that. We have people, engineers, a lot of people complaining at Google that like PMs are now being able to vibe code stuff. So they're like, all right, implement it, and now they're having to implement it faster, and you have to take corners. You have to take shortcuts, right? You don't magically become like a 10x engineer for this stuff. So I feel like
I think the internet has enabled developers to patch and update where they never could do that before. Go back to my NES. I'm playing an NES game a couple of years ago, and I'm griping that they need to patch something because it's it sucks, and realize, I can't do that. But now all these games that come out are coming out with tons of bugs, and they're just getting patched over and over and over again. Every piece of software now has the ability to get patched almost immediately, and so everyone's just shipping it and letting it go out there and letting
'Cause the
everyone
customer's
test it
the
for
free
them,
beta
find the
tester.
bugs and fix it. But
okay, that's
I
a
mean-
gross oversimplification of a lot of software development. Okay,
Sure,
if you're building a
but-
critical service and stuff,
but, I
sometimes
mean,
you get
so-
corners, but
Sure, but my point kind of is that these things they're in a lot of cases trying to push it out as quickly as possible. things like a pacemaker where somebody's life is on the line has a lot more restrictions behind it. And, the people doing that probably take it a lot more seriously.
I mean,
and
we
do
had some
more
Boeing planes
testing
crash
to it.
the other day,
Yeah,
so,
I mean,
hey,
yeah.
like,
But, I mean,
Airbus sponsored the show,
it's-
please.
I think it does go. I think it's kind of your viewpoint. Do you want to just push it and fix it as it comes up, or do you want to try and make it as best as possible? And how much time do you want to spend doing that? I think there's a
How much time is the
trade-off there.
investors
Like,
and the
what
bosses
what
want
is
you
your
to spend?
acceptable level of
It's
trade-off?
not up to you. It's
know?
not up to you. It's up to your employer. That's the, like,
Well, it isn't it again. It's just you're make good choices. That's all I could say, right? It's just critical thinking, make good choices. Like my Python scripting is probably crap, right? I've had to get into a whole bunch of class inheritance and stuff like that and start building decorators. I'm gonna struggle a lot. But I don't build services in Python. I just build scripting, so it's good enough, right? You have to understand this is a company. You have a certain amount of time. You're supposed to get a certain amount of deliverables and stuff like that. If it's good enough, it's good enough. If it's bad, you're going to cost in some ways. But that's up to you. It's up to you as the person behind the wheel. Like,
I think
Yeah.
soon you have to maintain it a year later. It will bite you in the part of your body.
oh no, you will job
if you
top by
have
then.
if you have a service that you're maintaining, yeah, definitely. If you have a script that you run once or twice, no. Like,
You
hey, I migrated
regenerate.
everything to Netbox once. It was a terrible Python hacky script, but it worked. That's all I cared about. I didn't have
we
to
have-
make it.
We have LLMs now to remind us what that script is supposed to do, so it's not that problem anymore, right?
The description came out in Korean, but it's fine. It's fine. It's fine.
Well, I don't know.
So that's where I will always have a disagreement with this perception that coding is somehow solved, and I also think it's again rose tinted that somehow or other in this last couple of last year or two that we're all of a sudden started to say coding was never the problem. Shut up. Coding was always the problem. Like like Joseph said, bugs galore. Projects never finishing on time, ever finishing on time. Everything is more complicated than we think it is, and this lunatic lie that we tell ourselves that coding was fine in the past and AI has somehow made it better or worse. No, shut up. I've been around 20 years watching this industry, working in software for that entire time. I wasn't doing the coding. I was sat next to them. I was the guy making their code work. And I'm sorry, the code was always crap. And no one has ever really got in a position where they can produce really good, reliable code consistently. And the production cycle has always been long-winded, always. So you'll do a ton of design up front, and whether you're doing waterfall or agile is irrelevant. That we're going to do sprints. I'm going to deliver this feature in the next 2 weeks, and it takes 3 sprints. Shut up.
Yeah, but
I'm sorry, it never got better.
no, but it's nuance, right? Like there is good code, obviously. There are people producing good code. Like there are critical features that
I'm sure
work.
there's 5 or 6 unicorns out there. Yeah.
I think there's a lot more than 5 or 6 unicorns that have built these companies and stuff like that. But not all code is crap, and not all code is of the same crap quality. Like all code can be
Yeah, of
bad, but some
course.
code could be even worse. And I think that's the the thing is I think if we just start equalizing a lot of things, make points, it like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Code always sucks. So AI is just sucking code, but it would always suck. Like no.
Sweeping generalizations are terrible.
Yeah.
Bad code matters too, guys. Let's
Yeah,
be
30% more bugs versus 10% more bugs. That's a big factor. Like, so again, embrace it, adapt it, put it into your thing, but really, measure it. Don't just
I'm
go,
not
yeah,
gonna be able to
this is
clip
the
any
future.
of this. This is too reasonable takes. I mean, god damn you people. I was
Hey,
hoping for something
I
juicy.
also going back to the whole like coding problem solved. I think I've been thinking about this for a while now, and I think there are maybe a handful of companies who can say that. Your Googles, your Metas, your Amazons, the companies that have the money and can put the money and the manpower and the time into replacing all of their programmers with AI are going to be able to do that. But the rest of us who don't have that, who don't have companies who can do that, are not going to ever have that problem. So
I don't think they will ever solve that.
I think they'll
mean,
get there
again,
Amazon
eventually.
outages the other day, E4 is
yeah,
being
you
brought
talk
back.
to you talk to a lot of SEs at these hyperscalers, and it's not like they're perfect. No one's perfect, so you're always gonna have problems, regardless of AI or engineering or something like that. And then yeah,
And
I
they
don't
get
think that
USE's
there's
one.
dysfunctionality, right? You just get different
USE's one
problems.
is its own magical unicorn. And
Let's not
and
talk
yeah.
about that one. Nobody talks about, Philip. Philip is a, member of the family that we do not talk about. But just, to round things out, I mean, would it be fair? I personally have experienced that, a problem that used to be 3 cups of coffee and 2 magic pills for concentration is reduced into 1 magic pill and 1 cup of coffee. So, like, 2, 3 weeks ago, I sat down with Uncle Claude in planning mode, and we started a migration from NetBox for certain attributes into InfraHub. And then I put him into interviewing me mode, and then I just keep at him until he really gets it. And then I get a couple of insights on the way, I go, hey, maybe we can model the VRF like this for the old one and have that as a relationship. That way we can kill off the old one and, oh, brilliant. All right, update the plan. And then the next day I read it again and I find a few problems. And then I keep going and going and going. And then I got a pretty good plan, test it out, execute. Hey, it just worked. Everyone was happy. One bug. Other than that, everybody wins, right? But that's, business planning and migration. That's not software engineering, right? So, I don't know.
I
Did
mean,
we
it is software engineering. I think just don't view everything as a panacea. Don't view
Mhm.
every hammer as perfect, and then don't equalize everything. So don't, yeah. I think a lot of, once the hype dies down a lot, which, I think everyone is of the same opinion that it is way overhyped. I think a lot of good is going to come out of it. I'm excited to be in an industry that changes things. Like, if everything was just RIP and everything stayed network would be boring. It would just suck if it just all just didn't evolve.
Can
So
somebody say this quote so I can clip it? The new model has structural blindness dressed up as velocity. I think that's going to be a really good clip. That's AI written, by the way. I'm sorry, listener. I cheated for this episode. So, we've gone full circle. We have to realize that we have self-selected this group. So we don't have those voices that might not be getting heard. Like the podcast sphere has an interesting way of selecting the la 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 la. Everything is great. Do X, and the other person says do Y, and then the nodding heads start, and then they come up with something, and then we high five. So it's not always that simple. It can be pretty complicated. Anyone want to, is there anybody who wants to, hammer in one last nail before, before the listener drives off into the sunset?
don't give AI the
do it.
wheel. Think before you act, and please stop hyping things to the damn moon.
Just
Unless you
give
get paid
AI
tons of money, then hype all you want. Gotta
just
get
give
that
AI
bag.
all the access. It'll take care of everything for you. It's fine.
Sudo mode, baby. Just give him your sudo password and just walk away from the terminal. Great.
Permissions,
No,
right?
don't
Edit.
hype.
No
Don't
hype.
hype. No hype. Hype off. Hype turn off. Go away, hype. Ugh. God.
William, you're going to round this out with one of those famous packet pusher da-da-da-das? Or, what are we doing
I'm
here?
really bad at those.
Yeah.
One thing I think that's worth just thinking about is like looking at history, because I see a lot of parallels between like cloud computing. Like I was
Mhm.
there on the ground floor when it was like, hey, we've got data centers everywhere. We have like rows of mainframes that I was like, these IBM zero downtime mainframes. I'm just like gliding along and just have my hands on them. They're so beautiful. You open them up, it looks like the matrix of Optimus Prime. It's incredible. But I remember at that point where it was either all cloud computing. I was part of a company that was like, we're getting rid of all of our data centers inside of 18 months. We're moving all of our mainframes to the cloud. I was like, what? That's okay.
The
We can
billing
try to do
doesn't
that.
change.
Yeah. And it took a lot of like very painful exercises. It took many business units that had to like blow out their spend and a lot of like hard lessons to happen before it's like, okay, we're going to come back to the middle. We have like some sort of balance. We got to figure this out in the real world now. And that takes a while. Took a lot for cloud computing, and I'm seeing the same thing for AI. It's going to take a little bit of time to get a balance here. So, yeah, it's going to mature. It's easy to fall into these camps of absolute like knee jerk, reaction and hype, or complete naysayer, like this is the worst thing ever. I'm not going to touch AI. It's never going to touch a network device. But really, I mean, it's always a balance. It's somewhere in the middle. And I think as a concerted group of professionals, with all of you leading the charge, we're gonna get to that middle ground.
I mean,
And if
wouldn't
people are constantly telling you it's one way and the other, or it's the highway, just nod your head and don't listen to them. Like, there's always nuance. There's always a middle ground where people go, you will become destitute without this, or this will ruin the entire world. Just, yeah, big truckload of salt.
and
Will the
remember
nuance
we're
be
on a growing
mandated
one.
as well?
Yeah, it'll be mandated. And remember, remember that the silicon die is gonna keep doubling the transistor count. Like everything keeps getting better. Like all the money is focused at something improving. So when you're making your bets, always assume that the line goes up. That's what capitalism is based on. But Marco and Mark, you guys need to give us our closer though. So I'm gonna put all the pressure on you guys. You guys got to sit back, relax, bask in the glory, and nod your head. So I'm gonna put some pressure on you boys.
Okay, me first, seniority first there. I guess like in the idea that if somebody's mandating on the AI comes in and then the mandate is measured in lines of code, if you know that the constraint for your business is not lines of code, then just don't listen to them. And you can utilize AI or other tools for other reasons, right? Like I think we're just regurgitating like ironies of automation and the goal, a lot of things from the 80s, the 50s. And those things as well, it was all about robots, but maybe the constraint in the assembly line was not robots. So if someone comes into your business and says, I mandate you use the AI, I say, great, I'm going to use it for what the actual constraint is. And maybe that's knowledge. Maybe that's building prototypes. Maybe that's, validating or creating documentation. That's the way I see it. But anyways, to Marco.
Yeah, so the youngest in the call will go ahead, as it was previously mentioned, I guess. Um, what I think is really important about the AI hype train is that we keep in mind that the concepts are very important, but the execution might not be as important as it used to be. If I know what a for loop does, then I don't need to care about the schematics. I can just verify that. And if we go on the other thing, um, we wanted to do. Oh yeah, now we have this awesome tool that we think our velocity is faster, but why don't we invest that in the quality? We always like, oh, we're done 30% faster with everything, but we never take a step back and we're like, we have 30% more time. Why don't we make the quality better?
Ooh. Ooh, that's a call to action. That's what we call that, William. William, note that down. This is what we call a call to action. All right, that's how we close these bad boys. All right. He's muted, by the way. You gotta press unmute. That's more tips with Uncle Stein.
Quality eats volume for breakfast. I'm hungry
No.
right now.
No. Volume, put enough shit on the wall, make sure your manager doesn't know the difference, and he can't see the fresco and the beautiful painting that was on the wall originally. You put all your poop up and you make it sound like it's the greatest thing ever, and it does a few party tricks, and then you just call yourself the best in the world. Some people
Just
do
build
that.
another highway lane, I guess.
Yeah, build another highway. Listen, we're
I
all
don't,
driving.
I don't accept it. That unfortunately, you can't compare using an AI tool to solve a problem to solving it yourself by not having the testing and the quality validation in the first place. This is what I'm saying. We're making an apples to oranges comparison in far too many areas of our trade right now, where people are turning around and saying, "Oh, the machine will make it for me," and it creates unit tests, which are all happy path, by the way.
True equals true. Pass.
Great, 200 tests of I know that an integer is an integer. Well done. It's not the same thing. If before you were creating code and you weren't validating things at the end of it, and after using AI you're creating code and you're not validating the end of it, you were an idiot before, you're an idiot now. I'm sorry, but it's just I have to be blunt about it. There's a quote that I think that at some point along the line it's attributed to my CEO, but it says AI will definitely make let me restart that. AI can make a dumb person look smarter, but it would definitely make a smart person dumber. It will really will it will take away your ability to operate in so many ways if you allow it to. Don't allow it. If you were testing before, you should still be testing after. Doesn't make a difference.
I don't know. I just heard it from John. If you're dumb like me, use it to make me smarter. I like it.
That's all I needed to hear.
Yeah.
I've enabled you. Crack on.
Perfect. Thank you.
All in.
All in, ladies and gentlemen.
Shove.
So, I'll just tell you what the youngest vibe coder as a closing thought, I'll tell you what the youngest vibe coder I know he did the other day. He's 5 years old. He doesn't speak English, but he was playing The Incredible Machine from 2001, I think. And he took up ChatGPT because his dad taught him to do that the other day. He pointed it, asked in Icelandic, "Hey, what does it say over there?" He looked at the little description and he got it to read it for him. Now, when I was a kid, I had to ask my mom to read that for me, and she didn't always have time, and I'd have to go and, troubleshoot by hand and try and get the little ball to fall in and complete the level or something. But now his dad can focus on making poor quality podcasts with way too many guests in one episode while he talks to an AI. And he gets really, really upset when I start making fun of it, going, "Yes, that is a fantastic question. I will answer it in this manner. Here you have the text." And he goes, "Stop doing AI voice, Dad." So, guys, don't do AI voice. Make sure that if you're sending an email, take out the emojis, for God's sake. It's not 2023 anymore. It's not cute anymore. We don't want to see the emojis. We know those are, AI artifacts. Nobody goes hunting or knows the Unicode for the rocket symbol, okay? Nobody uses that. Real people don't use that. So, ladies and gentlemen, I hope you've enjoyed this episode. We've gone a little bit over, and I'm going to compress it as much as I can in editing. But here we are. So, thank you for listening, and we'll be back with another roundtable, I think, very soon.